Members, good morning. It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. On the agenda today, there are two items for discussion. Before this meeting, the administration circulated an information paper ECI 2026-27 number 1 among members. That paper sets out changes in the size of the directorate establishment approved since 2026. I remind members that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in any item under discussion today, please disclose the nature of such interest before you speak on that item in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. Please also note Rule 84 of the ROP, which governs voting involving a direct pecuniary interest. Item 1, EC 2026-27, number 1. This proposal is about redeploying a permanent post in the Development Bureau, Planning and Lands Branch, to the Northern Metropolis Co-ordination Office, and redeploying a time-limited directorate post in the NMCO to the Development Bureau's Planning and Lands Branch, creating a time-limited directorate post in the NMCO of the Development Bureau, retaining a time-limited directorate post in the Lands Department, and retaining 2 time-limited directorate posts in the Civil Engineering and Development Bureau to enhance the directorate support in overseeing and taking forward the implementation of the new development areas and other development projects in the Northern Metropolis. On the 24th of March this year, the government consulted the panel on development. Joining us for discussion of this item are Ms. Doris Hove, Permanent Secretary for Development, and her team. The names are set out on a list. I will not read out all of them. Mr. Andrew Lam, Chairman of the Panel on Development, is not here today, so I will go through the gist of the panel's discussion. On the 24th of March this year, the panel on development discussed the establishment proposal to advance and expedite the development of the Northern Metropolis submitted by the administration. The panel submitted the submission of that proposal to the establishment subcommittee for deliberations. Members supported measures to enhance directorate support under the Development Bureau, the Lands Department, and the CEDD to supervise and advance the new development areas and projects under the NM. The Northern Metropolis development will spend 10 to 20 years, so members suggested turning the time-limited posts into permanent posts to ensure consistent and effective delivery of such projects. The administration addressed the questions and concerns of members at the panel. Now I invite Ms. Doris Ho, the Permanent Secretary, to take us through the paper here. Thank you, Chairman. As the Chairman said, this proposal involves a few posts under the Development Bureau and a few other developments involving the Lands Department and the CEDD. These posts have much to do with the Northern Metropolis. The next 5 years will be a critical phase of the NM's development. We have to ensure we have proper arrangement in terms of personnel to get the work right. I want to start with the proposal about the Development Bureau itself. Under me at the Bureau, I have 2 colleagues supporting me, one at D3, the other at D4. I want to swap these 2 posts. The fact is that the more senior officer at D4 will work within the NMCO. The D3 officer will work on the planning branch, so that involves planning outside the Northern Metropolis. The merit is that without an increase in the establishment and funding, we will be able to put an officer with more experience in policy work at the NMCO. That's in light of the complexity and importance of the work involved in the NMCO. This internal redeployment will last up to 2028. The post at D3 is a time-limited post. That post will lapse in March 2028. That means we will conduct a review before March 2028. We will see how things go. The second proposal under the Development Bureau is to create an administrative officer staff grade C post at D2. This is because we have to step up the work at the NMCO. We will have to work on the dedicated legislation for the Northern Metropolis. The 5-year plan will also be a highlight for the NM. We have to get the 5-year plan right. After the policy blueprint comes out, we will have to implement that. That's why we have to step up policy support. This post at D2 is also proposed to be a time-limited post. It will be a 5-year post, so that's for the Development Bureau. I also said that 2 other departments are also involved in this proposal. First, the Lands Department, and the other one is the Civil Engineering and Development Bureau Department. Now, for the Lands Department, we want to keep a post at D1. At the CEDD, we will keep 2 posts at D2. These posts will last for roughly 5 years. The Northern Metropolis involves not just a vast amount of policy work. There are also works involving the NM. There are 9 NDAs in the NM. Works have started for 4 such NDAs. In the years to come, over time, new works will start. We will start with the site formation, and before that, we need land resumption. In the years to come, there will be a huge amount of land resumption, and that will involve communication with affected residents. Resettlement will be needed for eligible residents. For landowners, compensation will be dispersed, and that will involve a huge amount of work. That's why we propose keeping a post at D1 in the Lands Department. That's for Kutong North, Fanning North, Hongshui Q, and Yunlong South. So that post will cover the land resumption in those areas. For the 2 posts at D1 under the CEDD, 1 officer will cover Fanning North new development areas works, and that includes the road works in Fanling North and Kutong North. The other officer will cover Phase 2 planning for Santin Technopole and also the works at the Sanposhi Wetland Conservation Park. That officer will also work on the planning for the transport of the New Territories North New Town. So that means a vast amount of work in works. For that reason, we need the 2 officers to work on the tasks. I will stop here and I will be happy to take questions. Thank you, Permanent Secretary, for the detailed introduction. Now I open the floor for questions. Members who wish to speak can press the Request to Speak button now. Let's do 4 minutes per member. Questions and answers inclusive. 9 members have pressed the button. I will read out the order. Professor Michael Ngai, Professor Chairman Kwong, Mr. Chu Lapwai, Ms. Nixie Lam, Mr. Brave Chan, Mr. Chao Ziu Chong, Mr. Wu Yingpeng, Mr. Lothair Lam, and Mr. Perry Yu. 4 minutes, question and answer inclusive. Professor Ngai. The Development Bureau proposes redeploying a permanent post under the Development Bureau to the Northern Metropolis Co-ordination Office. That's at D4 level. And then for a D3 officer, that post will be deployed from the NMCO to the Development Bureau. The NM covers industries, planning, and land. So there is a need to put a senior officer in charge. But swapping these posts will involve a shift in focus. So someone who focused on territory-wide planning will work on the NM, then the officer working on the NM will go ahead to work on territory-wide planning. And these officers will need time to adapt to their new posts. How do we make sure the quality of work will not be undermined? And what will the handover timetable look like for these officers? Will there be plans to make sure smooth transition so as to avoid undermining work efficiency? The paper also proposes creating or keeping non-directorate officers to meet the needs of the NM's development. Do we have enough officers within the existing establishment to meet the needs of the entire NM development? In the future, how many extra officers will we need? As we shrink the civil service establishment, how do we review our work procedures? Will we make greater use of artificial intelligence? Will we streamline procedures so that we can meet the needs without taking on new manpower? So it's about deployment and transitioning as well as handover. Thank you. For Hong Kong, the most development project is the Northern Metropolis. When it comes to territory-wide planning, we pay extra attention to the NM. And that means different teams under the Development Bureau adapt to this priority. The NM represents the most important and most complex task. That's why we will put a more experienced officer on the NM. The member reminds us that despite their support, we have to be cautious about the officer having to adapt to the new role. I can assure the member that administrative officers have to be posted to a new spot every few years. They're used to that. And we get the transitioning right so that the personnel change will not affect the policy support we give to the work. On the second point, the Development Bureau has its plate full, but that is not a reason for us to keep expanding our establishment. We review our establishment and our manpower needs, and we are taking a measured approach. We propose an expansion only when warranted. We have to contain the growth in our civil service establishment. What do we do about the expanding workload? As the member said, we try to streamline our procedures. For the Development Bureau, we work with the department under our purview to simplify approval and vetting procedures. Professor Chen Wing-Kwong, thank you. I support strengthening directorate support to advance the Northern Metropolis development. On the dedicated legislation for the NM, the 2024 policy address proposed a bill for this legislation to the Legislative Council in the middle of this year. We would like to see the early passage and implementation of the legislation so that we can streamline procedures and speed up the NM's development. So can we have an update on the drafting of this bill? So how will the Deputy Director of the NMCO oversee the drafting of the bill? It's 29th of April today, and we will see, and May is around the corner. Is the government confident about submitting the bill to the Legislative Council in the middle of the year or even ahead of time? We need people's support for the NM as well. So I support what's stated under paragraph 7F, and that it means public engagement and publicity about the NM. People still have a vague idea of the NM. So as we work at full tilt to advance the NM, how do we get the publicity right, so that people get a good sense of what the NM is, and that people can seize the opportunities and share in the success of the NM. So this is a question about the dedicated legislation and also the publicity of the NM. Thank you.
多謝。
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. Your first question is about the dedicated legislation. In fact, this month we went to the development panel, briefing members on the entire framework of legislation. We're going to have the principal legislation, and this is an empowering legislation to empower the Executive Council to draft or to put forward the subsidiary legislation on various areas. We are doing the consultation, and things are progressing as expected. We are confident by the middle part of the year, the legislation or the bill will be introduced to the floor of the Council for scrutiny. And the newly created D2 officer will be responsible for this dedicated legislation. Once this is introduced to the Council, there will be a Bills Committee to be formed, and the officer will be supporting the scrutiny of the Council. So in terms of timetable, we hope that the principal legislation will be enacted by the end of the year. And once this has happened, we will be introducing the subsidiary legislation, and there will be a scrutiny process. Now, this newly created D2 colleague will be in charge of that as well. Your second question is about publicity. The NMCO has been proactively promoting this over the years, and our strategy is that we will be adopting a targeted approach regarding different stakeholders. We will be having the APIs on TV and on YouTube, and for other stakeholders like the business associations, students, or indeed visitors from outside of Hong Kong, we will be taking them to the Northern Metropolis for a site visit. It's only when people see the Northern Metropolis development that they will realize the potential and opportunities there. So this D2 colleague will be responsible for the publicity. In Kutong North, we are proposing some galleries on the Northern Metropolis. We have the local liaison centers in the NDAs. Now, all these are excellent spots for people to get exposed to the Northern Metropolis. Mr. Chu Lap Wei. Thank you, Chairman. I am in support of this proposal in Kutong North, Fanling North. There will be a lot of NDAs that are reaching the peak of development. In terms of compensation, land resumption, and the approval and vetting of development projects, we do need to have a dedicated team. So this arrangement is in response to the actual needs on the ground. Now, in the Lands Department and CEDD, there are some posts being retained. They will be responsible for land resumption, infrastructure development. How can you make sure that these teams will be able to coordinate the land resumption and the relocation of the stakeholders? Land resumption is the first step. If this cannot happen soon enough, then I'm worried that the whole timetable might be impeded. Right, land resumption and also the retention of the posts. Right, let me say a little bit here before I hand over to the Lands Department, Ms. Chiu, to supplement. Now, for this D1 post proposed to be retained, The post holder will be responsible for the land resumption for the NDAs. Now, on TV, you might see people or officials going down to the ground, to the site to do a resumption, but there are lots of steps before that. We need to gazette, we need to do the coordination. Now, Mr. Chu, you are concerned about the rural development. If we have brownfield operations, the colleagues will conduct surveys pre-demolition, and all these will require coordination. I defer to Ms. Chiu. Ms. Chiu, on the part of the Lands Department, you must understand that in the Northern Metropolis, we have to tie in with the timetable and get on with the resumption and clearance. It is because of this that we need to have a D1 colleague who is in charge of the land resumption and the timetable for resumption, and to coordinate with the Development Bureau and other departments in this regard. So we do need to have a high-level colleague to do the coordination work. Now, in fact, this post was there 5 years ago, and within 5 years, we are able to measure up to the target, and we can tie in with the timetable. 500 hectares of land or 200 hectares of land have been resumed and cleared respectively. There will be more land coming on stream, and the land resumption volume will be well over 600 hectares, and within 5 years we will be doing well over 600 hectares of land. So we do need to keep this colleague to do the coordination and to be in charge. Now, when this colleague is in charge of that, the member is concerned about the rural connection. We do have a very close liaison with the rural representatives. By keeping this post, we should be able to build on what we have been doing and do more of the same. Ms. Nixie Lam. Chairman, thank you. I am supportive of the creation of these posts because this will be conducive to us aligning with the National 5-Year Plan. I've got a question here that this PAS post, it will be occupied by May, and page 9 of the paper, 16A, says that in 2026 or before 2026, the dedicated legislation will be in place. Of course, there are other KPIs to fulfill. Now, my question is, now are we able to measure up to the KPIs? How can we make sure that within such a tight time frame the work can be done properly? Other than the KPIs in the paper, are there any other KPIs that will have to be complied with between 27 and 31? How can they meet the tight timetable? P.S. Well, on this question by Ms. Lam, the dedicated legislation for Northern Metropolis preparatory work has already commenced. We're not waiting until the post is occupied before we started this. In the policy address last year, there was referencing to that, so we are preparing for this really proactively. Now, when the post is filled, and other colleagues will have to double across these tasks, and we will be able to get the job done properly. We are confident that by the middle part of the year, we should be able to introduce the bill to the council. Once the post is occupied, then the post holder will assist LegCo in the scrutiny of the bill and also the drafting of the subsidiary legislation. I'm sure that the Bills Committee is going to be holding meetings on a frequent basis. We need to address members' questions, and this post holder will, upon the introduction of the bill, be able to cope with or deal with this kind of work. Ms. Lam mentioned the KPIs in para 16. Other than those, are there any other KPIs? Now, this colleague in the coming years will have to cover all these key areas of work. We do not rule out the possibility that as we take forward the Northern Metropolis, where necessary, we will need to enlist the assistance of this colleague. But Para 16 has already incorporated all the areas of work that will be covered by this colleague. Ms. Lam, well, I'm asking this because Para 16 covers 2026. I'm concerned about 2027 to 2031. Now, all these points covered 2026. Perhaps you may wish to let us know more about these posts. Well, could you tell us more about the KPIs? P.S. Para 16B, to complete the formulation of the Hong Kong 5-year plan within 2026. Once the document is in place, we need to follow up. We need to implement all the details. And all these will cover the year beyond 2026. And C is about the large-scale land disposal. We are doing the Hong Shui Kill at the moment. The tendering exercise is going on. There are two other large-scale land sites. Fanning North, the tendering exercise will take place by the end of the year. The STT, Shantin Technopole, will happen by next year or thereafter. Similarly, in D, urban-rural integration guidelines and also the Urban-Rural Integration Fund. We have introduced or formulated this policy in 2026, and this colleague in the coming years will be responsible for the implementation. Thank you. Next, Mr. Brave Chen. Chairman, thank you. Thank you, Permset. Basically, the Northern Metropolis represents a massive opportunity, and we should enhance the quality and the efficiency. I support all these proposals. Now, this is also related to the Hong Kong 5-year plan. And we need to communicate with NDRC, the GPA, and like the Permanent Secretary said, there will be public engagement exercise. Do we have any mechanism to communicate with the counterparts? And if you have frequent change of personality, it will be not be conducive to communication. Now, this may not be related to your bureau. It may be the CSB. Now, definitely, if the government officials are taking the post for 5 years, it would be far better than 3 years. And I think that this is for the long term. And I think for these directorate post holders, it would be a good idea for them to be there for 5 years before shifting them to other posts. It might achieve better results. Second, Para 18, there is a table under the Development Bureau. There are a number of departments in 2023 to 26. there has been a reduction in the number of posts. We've seen a decrease in manpower, but they're doing more. I think this is something really commendable. And I think the other departments should reference this. Now, for certain posts, we agree that they should be increased, and in some other cases, you may need to reduce or slash or transfer the personnel, and that would command more support from the public. Where needed, you should increase the posts, but where they are not needed, they should be transferred, they should be slashed in order to tie in with the development of the Northern Metropolis. Thank you.
問題就
The question is about the new post and how that officer will talk to the mainland, whether there will be regular communication mechanisms and also continuity issues. On Mr. Chan's first question, on working with the mainland over the Northern Metropolis, we have a task force for that. That is led by the Deputy Financial Secretary. Our counterpart is the Deputy Mayor of Shenzhen. That's the platform for us to talk to each other regularly. There is more frequent contact outside that task force. Ms. Linda So can tell us more in a moment. The NMCO also talks to the Municipal Development and Reform Commission of Shenzhen, as well as other mainland authorities. Now, for this officer D2, it's a good idea to have the same officer serve out the entire 5-year term. But we also have to be realistic. Promotions happen. We cannot keep an officer in the same post for too long. We will keep looking out for that. Now I give the floor to Ms. Linda So. Chairman, I will briefly discuss the point. We have a task force that talks to Shenzhen. Beyond this task force, there are working groups under this task force covering different areas such as tourism, other areas. They hold regular meetings with Shenzhen. As the permanent secretary said, it's not just the official channels. There are specific issues that we also talk to Shenzhen about. Contact over these issues is ongoing. Authorities from different cities in the GBA also come to us. We talk, so we remain in constant contact with the mainland authorities over a range of issues. So this future officer will help us step up the work on this front. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chao Siu-chung. There will be new opportunities from the Northern Metropolis development. I support stepping up directorate support for such work so that they can take forward the pressing work, and the workload will be heavy. I have a question about swapping these two posts. Extra duties will be undertaken by the future deputy director of the NMCO, but then we now put a D3 officer on the Planning Alliance branch of the Development Bureau, and then the permanent secretary said she would keep an eye on the work. So you're asking an officer at D3 to take up the work of an officer at D4. So everyone has their own work. And then the permanent secretary has to pay extra attention to the work here. I don't think that's right. So what's the right way to do it? What's the methodical way to do it? Now my second question has to do with the lands department. more than 600 hectares of land will be resumed, and that means a vast amount of work. Many lands inspectors told me about the heavy workload and the immense stress they are under. The government is also shrinking the civil service establishment. Given the heavy workload confronting the lands department, the cut to the establishment is more than 2%, so I don't see the government holding back on shrinking the establishment for the lands department. Now there will be more directorate support. What about the frontline officers? Will the frontline officers be able to cope with the heavy workload? So the first question is about the officer at D3, and the second question has to do with the frontline officers at the lands department. Will the frontline officers be able to cope with the heavy work associated with land resumption? Mr. Chow made a good point. The officer at D3 will take on mostly the same work as that previously shouldered by an officer at D4. We try to avoid reassigning all the duties. So we'll have to ask this officer to take up more demanding work. And for me, as the permanent secretary, I will get into more frequent contact with this officer. I will give this officer more guidance to get the work right. On swapping these two officers, we aim to review the situation in 2028. We will see how things go at that point to decide whether to continue this arrangement or make changes. So in 2 years' time, we will review the situation. In a moment, I will invite Ms. Linda Chiu to tell us more about land resumption. It is challenging work. Our plate is full, but we do have to shrink our establishment in line with the government's objective. We will live with that, and when possible, we outsource the work. Let's see if Ms. Lady Chiu has anything to add. The member understands the stress our frontline officers are under, and I appreciate that. The government is looking to shrink the civil service establishment, and we will have to meet this requirement. For our frontline officers, we have taken some steps. First, we review our internal procedures and then streamline the processes so that our officers can get more done for less time. Two or 3 years ago, we anticipated an increase in the workload from land resumption, so we consider outsourcing some of the work. There will be enough of our own officers to keep an eye on the contractors. We have engaged social workers to help us explain the land resumption and the compensation mechanism. These social workers will also keep an eye on the situation of the affected residents. We have also engaged outside surveyors to help us with calculating the rate of compensation. We also adopt technology. Previously, our officers had to visit the site and measure the size of the plots. Now there are electronic devices. Officers with these devices can measure the size of the structures and they can take a picture on the spot. These measures help our frontline officers with the work. We have achieved some success. we will keep an eye on the situation. If need be, we will review the situation and speed up the work. Chairman, just one comment. Hiring contractors warrants caution. You still have to spend public money on outsourcing the work. When you brief out the work, you are not achieving savings, so this arrangement warrants caution. Thank you. Next, Mr. Wu Yingpeng. Thank you, Chairman. We're entering the peak period for the NM's development. The scope is wide. Development will take place over many years. The work covers many policy bureaus. Cross-bureau coordination will be challenging, so we do need senior directorate officers to coordinate the work. The proposal from the government is well justified. I support this. The work will span many years. Continuity matters. There were calls for turning the time-limited posts into permanent posts. Can we get the government to explain why we're still sticking to time-limited posts? Thank you. So a question about why time-limited posts instead of permanent posts, given the importance of continuity. Thank you. At the panel on development, there were questions about this point. We thought through the matter. Our decision is to start with our original proposal. This means we stick to time-limited posts. So for those two departments, those time-limited posts will last up to 5 years, and then by the end of the period, we will review the posts. The same goes for the swapping. In 2 years' time, we will review the arrangement. For the D2 post at the Development Bureau, before the end of the 2-year period, we will review the situation. At that point, we will decide whether the operational need at that point justifies converting the posts into permanent ones. A review before the post lapse is the appropriate way to go. The next 5 years will be critical. Planned resumption and works will take place over this period. At that milestone, we will review the situation. And that will be a good time to decide whether we turn those posts into permanent ones. So we propose sticking to the time-limited posts, and then at that point in future, we will review the arrangement, and then we will discuss with LegCo this issue at that point in time. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lothair Lam. Thank you. I support this establishment proposal. I have some questions. The first one has to do with industry development. Under the Planning and Lands branch, there will be an officer at D2. This officer will work on industry anchoring. The D4 post at the NMCO will help bring in those enterprises. So how will these two officers delineate their work? So does it mean that after the enterprises come, the officer at D2 will help them with the needs about land? My next question echoes a question from Mr. Chow. So we will see a lot of land resumption and clearance, and as much as 690 hectares of land will be resumed. Land resumption is heavy on manpower. Many logistics operators now work in the Northern Metropolis. We have to consider resettlement for these operators. If we brief out the work, as Mr. Chow said, we're still spending public money. Can we hire more frontline officers to deal with the land resumption work?
同埋
D2, D4, the division of labor, and any likelihood of outsourcing some of the work. Permanent Secretary. On Mr. Lam's question, at the newly created D2 post, the post holder is working under the D4 officer, and the D2 post will be providing policy support. Now, Mr. Lam expressed concerns about the one-stop service for the operators of the industrial undertakings. Now, we need to do the construction. We also need to attract the leading businesses to establish their presence in the Northern Metropolis. So the Development Bureau will be working alongside with other departments and bureaus with the attraction of enterprises, the Invest Hong Kong, the Oasis, they are also doing their respective work. And if they need land, they will be approaching the Development Bureau. We will be looking at the suitability of some of the sites. Other than assisting them individually, we also have the Industrial Park Company. In the budget, we have earmarked $10 billion for the Hong Shui Kyo Industrial Park Company Limited. We will be seeking funding injection at the Finance Committee. Now, the CEO of the company will be liaising with the enterprises if they want to settle a presence in Hong Kong, and if they're worth having, should we offer some concessions, tax concession, land premium concession, or any direct subsidy. There will be a department dealing with all these issues. Mr. Lam, you are from the sector, and you must understand the logistics. Warehouses will be affected in the process of land resumption, and the lands department has a full plate there, and we are having a number of measures that will alleviate the problem for the logistics warehouses. So we are identifying more land for the operators to make application for, and we will be offering the short-term tenancy, which we offer them up for tender for the logistics company to bid to continue with their operation. Under the Development Bureau, we have a team providing one-stop service. If the logistics operators need assistance in terms of land issues, they are welcome to approach our colleagues. We fully appreciate that the SMEs may not be well up in the processes, so we are offering all these services. Just a reminder that there are 2 more members on the list. For those who wish to speak but haven't pressed the button to do so, please do so quick, because we're going to be putting this to the vote pretty soon. Mr. Perry, Chairman, thank you. The LegCo visited the Northern Metropolis on 2 occasions. I'm sure that those who have been there would feel that in the coming 5 years, the development will be in full swing, and things are being taken forward proactively. And this is not on the drawing board. I think things are really actually happening. So to strengthen the directorate support and to take forward the project would be important. I do support the proposal regarding the establishment. During the site visit, I do feel the development, the intensity of the development. I think that the administration should not only introducing the large-scale land development and also the introducing enterprises, the administration should hammer home the message to the population in Hong Kong, the intensity of the Northern Metropolis development. Many people feel that this is something very far removed from them. It's not something that those living in the new territories should be concerned about. It is something for everyone in Hong Kong. I hope in the publicity you should cover this element. Perhaps you should reach out to the schools, or you would organize some site visits with itinerary covering the Northern Metropolis to make people understand the development in this area. Second, I am concerned about the cross-bureau coordination. That this D4 post has this requirement. How can we make sure that when we develop the project, we will have cross-bureau and cross-departmental participation, like the Sampo-Shi Wetland Conservation Park. Not only should we enhance the biodiversity, we should also provide high-quality recreational conservation facilities. You should liaise with the CSTB and also the SCSD and the EEB. How can you coordinate among yourselves for this purpose? Now we are concerned about the blue-green recreational zone, and how can you, at an early stage, involve different departments and also the coordination there. Thank you. The first one is a proposal, the publicity for the Northern Metropolis. I think we have covered this one. Perhaps you might wish to address the second one in brief, please. Chairman, the Northern Metropolis indeed cuts across different bureaus. The DEVB has the duty to coordinate the efforts. As Permanent Secretary, Ms. Linda So and other colleagues in their respective roles will also be doing the coordination work with other bureaus and departments. Just last year, the decision-making level has been elevated, and there is the Committee on Development of the NM, headed up by the CS. The bureaus you mentioned are also involved. The bureau involved with industrial development is also involved. Now, this is a very good platform for us to flag up all the relevant issues, in particular when there are diverse views. We like to have this platform where we can get the steer from up on high. So the CE will be giving the steer when it comes to the cross-bureau efforts. Now, the member also mentioned that there are certain projects that would require the coordination of various bureaus. The Sampo-Shi Wetland Conservation Park involves egg and fish, recreational conservation. We are actually liaising with the EEB in this area. Later on, we'll be coming back to the council. In this project, we'll be seeking funding approval, and there would be plenty of opportunities to engage members in relation to the cross-bureau coordination and how we're going to be expecting the results. Right, Mr. Chen Pak-chi will be the last speaker. I'll draw a line there. Mr. Chen, please. Chairman, thank you. Ms. Nixie mentioned para 16 the 4 items that will be covered in 2026, so the timeline is pretty tight. The item B mentioned the Hong Kong's 5-year plan. Consultation is taking place this quarter. So in terms of item B, what percentage of manpower will be devoted to this? And there will be all these temporary structures, and there will be directorate steer and supervision. I'd like to find out more about the assistance given to the stakeholders there. Permanent Secretary. I defer to Ms. Chiu for further details. Now, on your first question, this D2 post, how much time would be needed for the formulation of Hong Kong's 5-year plan? In para 16, if you want me to choose, there are 2 items that are terribly important. The first one is dedicated legislation and the scrutiny. The second one is Hong Kong's 5-year plan, because in the coming 5 years, the extent to which Northern Metropolis will be developed in terms of residential development, industries, and livelihood support facilities, we do need to have something to show for it. Now, with all these documents in place, we need to have a mechanism for regular monitoring to make sure that things will be happening according to schedule. Now, in para 16, there is a list of work, and item B, the 5-year plan, will take up a significant portion of the time. Ms. Chiu? Chairman, thank you. Thanks very much. In the coming 5 years, 690 hectares of land need to be dealt with, and in there, a lot of stakeholders are affected, the residents, the brownfield operators, and also the farms and livestock farmers and so on. We do have an ex-gratia payment mechanism, and this D1 post holder will need to coordinate with other departments, including the AFCD. There are many farms or livestock farms where we need to have the assistance of the AFCD in terms of the calculation of ex-gratia payment. So we do need to have a liaison among the departments. So this D1 colleague will need to look at the time frame for clearance to see how we can strike a balance between the clearance and the compensation. So this D1 post will need to do the coordination there. So these 690 hectares of land, we are confident that we should be able to deal with that. But as I said, we will be enhancing the procedures. We will use AI for assistance and review the entire procedures. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Fan, Appendix 3 refers to the PSNM. This would deal with the public engagement. Para 16F refers to the Kutong North NDA having an exhibition gallery which will be in place in 2027. And there are 5 non-directorate officers comprising 4 civil service posts. Now, this is an area covering 1/3 of Hong Kong, and of course you will be promoting this to the students and schools. Would that be enough? Second, the Northern Metropolis development will have implications in Hong Kong. What about young people and educational sector? Will this PAS be responsible for the publicity in this area? And will the government take this opportunity to review the manpower for the NMCO for the long term? Thank you.
宣傳北都
So the question is about publicity. Other members also asked these questions, and they were answered. A brief reply would do. Thank you. On Mr. Andrew Fan's first question, his focus was on the adequacy of manpower supporting the future officer at D2, and also whether there will be enough people to work on publicity for the entire city. That team will set out the publicity strategy. We will have to be mindful of our target audience. We have to find the most effective approach to get the message across to that target audience. We will do our best to leverage a strategy to get the message to as many people as possible. Leading, or rather taking people on a visit, is the best way to show people the progress. We try to arrange site visits if we can. We also leverage social media. These platforms are a great way to reach out to young people. We will also have a physical exhibition hall so that we can show people what's in the Northern Metropolis. So this future officer will help us identify ways and areas where we can do even better. Mr. Fan brought up young people in particular. We have a team at the planning department. Those teams work with officers from other departments. These officers visit schools. They tell teachers and students about the Northern Metropolis. Sure, there's room for further improvement, and we can think about that. Mr. Fan's other question is when a full review will be conducted for the NMCO's manpower. Most posts will lapse in 2028 for the NMCO. Before that point, we will review the situation. That will be a good time for us to look at the complexity of the work ahead and what tasks will arise for different points in time, and then we will decide what to do about the manpower. Ms. Julia Lau. I have no objection to the government's proposal. Just one comment. There are professional bodies that say that most land in the NM is greenbelt site, the plot ratio is low, and we have to incorporate green-blue design into the NM. There's just one landscaping professional at the NMCO, so we need a review of the manpower. So we should review this arrangement in a timely way. So there's just one landscaping professional, so can we review this setup? There will be a review. The establishment of the NMCO shows just one landscaping professional. When we conduct planning studies, we also engage a consultant. Our consultant also has their own landscaping professionals. So we do have input from landscaping professionals on the greening efforts of the NM. The landscape architect at the NMCO will give advice on the implementation. At the CEDD, they have their own landscape architect. So when you look at this way, you will see not just one landscape architect. So how many people are there at the NMCO? Ms. Linda So. At the NMCO, there are 36 officers. In this financial year, we have 40. Dr. Junius Ho. My question has to do with the AOSGB. This officer will be transferred from the Land Development Bureau to the NMCO. Enclosure 4 says, so the D4 officer will go to the NMCO, the D3 officer will go to the Planning and Lands branch. We need a D4 officer at the NMCO because more intensive work is expected. Is that the case? There are 2 officers supporting me, one at D3, the other at D4. The NM involves a vast amount of work. The work is more demanding in policy work. The work is more complex. That's why I propose swapping. We need someone at D4 with more experience in policy work to take up the work about the NM. The officer at D3 will work on planning outside the NM. The officer at D3 will take up all the work currently performed by the officer at D4. That will make life harder for the officer at D3, so for me as their boss, I will help. This is the most appropriate arrangement in light of the priorities of the Development Bureau. I commend this effort, but the other side of the argument is that I can see why you move a D4 officer to the NMCO, but now we put a D3 officer to a post previously occupied at D4. So does that mean the post currently occupied by the officer at D4 is not so demanding? So it's good enough to put an officer at D3 on the post. You're asking the officer at D3 to take on extra work. So does that mean that the officer at D4 is not so important? Is it a problem with the officer, or is it something about the job? I need more clarity on that. It's just a comment. On establishment, I have an observation. Every department says they need people for the work. But when you look at things from a macro perspective, we're looking to shrink the civil service establishment from 193,000 to 183,000 posts. But some bureaus are still looking to create new posts. We need an overall view of the picture. Every bureau can give us all kinds of justifications for more posts. But what about the macro picture? Altogether, we have 1,900 directorate posts. And then you add 200 or so posts. 1,574 plus 270, so roughly 1,800 directorate officers. So the directorate rank is swelling. What about the non-directorate officers? We want a macro picture. We have to be mindful of the big picture. So that's a comment from Dr. Ho. Dr. Ho commented on the swapping of the D3 officer and the D4 officer. Maybe a brief response from the permanent secretary. The two posts at the NMCO and the position in the planning and lands branch, both posts are essential. We have to be realistic. We have to contain the civil service establishment and contain our expenditure. I'm the controlling officer. I have to make choices. This arrangement will be subject to review in 2 years' time. Do we continue the arrangement or do we make changes? And if so, what changes? These matters will be subject to review, and that review will happen in 2028. Ms. Judy Chen. In principle, I support this proposal because the Northern Metropolis is so important to Hong Kong. The Development Bureau has shown its foresight in its work. In developing new towns, we need transport, we need amenities. The Development Bureau has done a good job. But the Northern Metropolis is not your average new town. There will be new challenges, such as large-scale land disposal, a unit town, the application of the artificial intelligence, a low-altitude economy, autonomous driving. These are concepts never seen before. My concern is this officer at D4 and their team will have to coordinate a vast amount of work. But that coordination appears to be simply coordination across government departments. We're trying to bring in enterprises. Tech firms worry about application scenarios. So for this team led by the future officer at D4, will this team take on not just cross-departmental coordination, but also take on board calls and views from the community, from the younger generation? We may miss something in our thought process, and what we miss may turn out to be important down the road. So it's about coordination, cross-departmental coordination. Indeed, the Northern Metropolis is not just about land resumption and site formation. The NM is an opportunity for us to develop a metropolis that is livable, that is a good place to visit, and a good place to pursue development. That's why planning matters. Officers at the NMCO will coordinate across government departments. These officers will also visit the mainland to study the experience of Tier 1 cities. Take Shenzhen. It focuses on innovation and technology. Ms. Chen brought up the point about application scenarios. The NMCO talks to relevant government departments. The NMCO will also visit other places to learn from the success stories elsewhere. For the Unitown, the NMCO officers joined the Chief Secretary on a visit to South Korea and also mainland cities. The experience is helpful. We can think about how to draw on the experience and apply that to the NM so that we can pursue an industry-led and infrastructure-first approach, and we strike a balance between conservation and development.
今
It's my turn. Next, members have expressed a lot of comments, division of labor as a result of the swap, and in future we need to meet the timeline for the dedicated legislation, publicity. All these different subjects were raised by members. I'd like to address the issue of the lands department and the manpower there. Land resumption is very complicated. I've done some work related to this. And the communication and explanation to the stakeholders would be important. Mr. Chow Shu-chung mentioned not only do we need the manpower, we need to have the manpower that is of good quality. I think you have to tread carefully when it comes to outsourcing. Colleagues who are really experienced in land administration will certainly make a difference to the effectiveness. If they're not doing this well enough, then it would be counterproductive. I think we can put this to the vote. I'm going to put this to the vote. Will members in favor of the paper EC 26171, please raise the hands. Those against? No. I think the majority of the members voting are in favor of the proposal. The proposal is endorsed. As to whether we would suggest that FC have further discussion, according to Section 40A of the procedure, I'd like to put this to the vote. This subcommittee proposes that FC have further discussion of EC 2026-171. Just a reminder that if this proposal is endorsed, then we would be advising that FC would have further discussion. If this is rejected, there would be no discussion at the Finance Committee. For those in favor of the proposal, please raise their hands. Those against? I think the majority of the members are not in favor of this motion. The proposal is rejected. The ESC does not advise that FC have further discussion of paper EC 2026-271. Thank you very much. We move on to the next item. The next item is EC 2026-27 bracket 2. Proposed creation of one permanent post to head the new Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office set up in Kuala Lumpur. This is in relation to the Hong Kong ETO in Kuala Lumpur. On the 24th of February 2026, the relevant bureau panel has been consulted. We have with us Dr. Bernard Chen, Undersecretary for Commerce and Economic Development, Ms. Grace Kwok, DS, and Ms. Natalie Lee, PAS. The chairman of the panel, Mr. Dr. Ng, is not a member of the ESC, and he's not here, so I'll be briefing members on the salient points of the discussion. The Commerce Industry panel had some discussion at the meeting on February 24th. regarding the proposal to create a permanent post of AO Staff Grade C. This post will serve as the head of the ETO in Kuala Lumpur. Members supported submitting the proposal to the ESC. Members suggested that the administration set KPIs for the ETO. They also inquired about the allocation of manpower and resources to ensure that the office can effectively oversee Pakistan, which is geographically distant. Members expressed interest in the division of labor and coordination between KL, ETO, and other ASEAN-based offices, such as Singapore and Jakarta, hoping to achieve greater synergy. Furthermore, in response to the geopolitics, members advised that ETOs be opened in emerging markets like the Middle East. The administration addressed members' concerns and questions at the meeting. Dr. Chen, the Secretary, will take us through the paper, please. Thank you. Chairman, as you said, Chairman, we seek the ESC's support to create an AO Staff Grade C post as Director of the ETO Kuala Lumpur. And the arrangement is in line with other ETOs. According to the 2025 policy address, the KL ETO was set up on the 10th of December last year and has become operational. This is the 15th ETO following Singapore, Jakarta, Bangkok, and this is the 4th ETO in the ASEAN country. The ETOs have been promoting liaison with other countries, promoting Hong Kong's advantages, and they are playing a significant role in economic and trade ties, and also to help Hong Kong maintain our influence. In the 4 ASEAN ETOs, we cover more than the 12 economies. We have covered Pakistan and Sri Lanka, as well as Timor, to promote a Timor-Leste. The non-directorate staff have been posted to the ETO to do the advanced work, and all the preparatory work is in full swing, and I hope that members will give us the support to create this directorate post to head up the KL ETO and to take forward all the related work. As Chairman said a moment ago, on the 24th of February, we have taken this proposal to the Commerce and Industry panel and got members' support. Subject to members' endorsement, today we will be taking the proposal to the FC for funding approval. Myself and my colleague are only delighted to take members' questions. All right, it's now time for questions. Members who wish to speak will please press the button 4 minutes for the Q&A. There are 12 members on the list. Let me run through the list. Mr. Perry Yeo, Mr. Chow Siu Chung, Mr. Kingsley Wong, Mr. Nick Lam, Mr. Andrew Fan, Mr. Albert Chong, Mr. Alvin Lee, Mr. Nick Chen, Mr. Sunny Ten, Mr. Elizabeth Quat, Mr. Alan Chan, and Mr. Brave Chen. There are 12 members on the list. I think I'll arrange 3 minutes for the Q&A. We hope that we can get this item out of the way today. 3 minutes. Mr. Paradieu. Chairman, thank you. Now this permanent post, I think this is really necessary, and you need to staff the office. Now in ASEAN countries, we have been developing new markets in terms of goods, economic and trade ties, and so on. We do need this development, and I support this. This is 4th in the ASEAN countries. Now Vietnam, we don't have any ETO there. But in terms of trade ties, this is the number one in the ASEAN country. So is there any likelihood of an ETO being opened in Vietnam? We have been working very hard to explore the visitor market in Vietnam, the economic development in Vietnam, and the demographics that do offer pretty good potential. And I think we should talk about economic ties in the same breath as tourism. So can we have better coordination with the Tourism Bureau in order to promote, in particular Hong Kong is an East-West Center for International Cultural Exchange. What is the KPI there? What is the division of labor with the Tourism Bureau, or Tourism Board? The Secretary, Chairman, thank you. Well, Vietnam is covered by the Singapore ETO, so the colleagues from that ETO will be liaising with the government, the business sector, and all the stakeholders in Vietnam to tell a good story of Hong Kong, and also to assist the business sector, the enterprises in Hong Kong. If they're interested in Vietnam, we will be providing the service. We will be providing some market findings, survey findings. I mean, the needs are diverse. We will be providing the market survey findings, and the CDB will use different networks, and also through members we can disseminate the information. So when they open up the Vietnamese market, they will have the right information to work with. Tourism Board. But the ETO serves the CDB, and we will be working with the LCSD and all the partners, the Tourism Board and so on. We will work together to lure high value-added visitors to Hong Kong. Mr. Chow Shu-Chou, Chairman, thank you. The ASEAN is a very important trade partner for Hong Kong, and they take up 15%. Malaysia represents a third in terms of trade with Hong Kong. So I do support an idea of setting up an ETO in KL, and we do need to have sufficient manpower to take forward the work. Now, Malaysia used to be covered by the Jakarta ETO, that they have an establishment of 14 people in the Jakarta ETO. Malaysia is an important trading partner for Hong Kong, and the colleagues must be really familiar with Malaysia. Will the colleagues be posted back to this office instead of hiring locally? And also for the Jakarta ETO, was set in 2016. It has an establishment of 14 people. Things remain unchanged. Now, are you going to be consolidating the establishment there in the different ETOs? Would there be further streamlining of the manpower? Now, with the reposting of some of the officers, would there be a further streamlining?
係唔該。
So can we have a leaner establishment at the Jakarta office as a result of the Malaysian office? Now, the Jakarta office gets in touch with the Secretariat of ASEAN. That's because the headquarters of the ASEAN are in Jakarta. Every ETO is tasked with connecting with a specific economy, there will be no reduction in the workload. With the uncertainty in trade and commerce, we have to stay competitiveness. We have to keep expanding our trading network. We have to keep making more friends. So there's more work for each ETO. And each ETO has to support the work of different policy bureaus. So on shrinking the establishment of ETOs, that will be hard to achieve. In using resources, we approach the task with caution. We use technology so that resources are spent properly. Mr. Kingsley Wong, I support creating this post because this will help us expand our trade and economic network. My question has to do with the qualifications required for the post. This officer will represent Hong Kong overseas. This officer will take part in trade negotiations. So we need someone who is politically reliable. Now, someone who used to head our Bangkok and Jakarta office, meaning Bangkok and Jakarta ETO, left Hong Kong and then ran in the UK's parliamentary elections. So for our heads of ETOs, do we have a requirement for this candidate to declare their nationality? This officer will represent Hong Kong. Overseas, they will take part in negotiations. So they will be privy to secrets in trade and commerce. So it's about political reliability. I agree with the member on the point that this officer at the directorate level will lead an office overseas. This will have to be a mature person, a competent and experienced person. This person will have to be good at negotiating and public relations. That's what's required for a candidate to succeed in this post. When we deploy officers, we consider the work nature, the overall operational requirement, and the experience, and the preferences. And then we find the best candidate for each post. On the specific examples mentioned by the member, I will not speculate or comment on such cases. For senior civil servants posted to ETOs overseas, they have to go through a rigorous vetting procedure after they leave office that will strike a proper balance between their post-service career options and public interest. We're often familiar with this process where a recent leaver cannot take up work for a period. Thank you. Mr. Wong. We may recruit from the outside. There may be open recruitment. So can we require the candidate to declare their nationality? Mr. Wong's focus is that the government should get the gatekeeping right. I think that's the gist. Dr. Chen. We will send an administrative officer to the office to serve as the head. Civil servants have to swear an oath, so we will step up the messaging. Ms. Nixie Lam. I support creating this post. I follow affairs about ASEAN closely. Some years ago, we visited different economic and trade officers. Getting the Jakarta office to cover Malaysia overwhelmed the Jakarta office. There were so many islands. There are so many people in ASEAN. So there's only little coverage. The DEB went on a visit to the region, and some business chambers in Malaysia said they had never heard of Hong Kong's ATOs in the region. So how will this ATO in Kuala Lumpur coordinate with other ATOs in the region? There's one in Jakarta, there's another in Singapore, and then there's an office in Bangkok. The ASEAN countries will take turns to serve as the chairperson of ASEAN. So it used to be Indonesia, and now the Philippines chairs ASEAN. Next year it will be Singapore. So can we tell them about our 15th five-year plan? So can we act ahead of time? Can we get in touch with these regions? Let's get the advanced preparations right so that we make the most of the opportunities there. So we should talk to the regional partners about our five-year plan. So that's a question for the Undersecretary. Thank you. We work with all departments, including our ATOs, about our five-year plans, and we tell them about our work. On how the 4 ATOs in ASEAN will coordinate the work, each has its own positioning. Each is tasked with connecting with specific economies. We also have the Go Global Task Force, the Economic and Trade Express. We want to enhance the functions of ATOs. We want to strengthen the cooperation between ATOs so that they achieve synergy. We want a wider coverage in terms of our economic and trade network. Hong Kong's ATOs will work with other bodies such as the Trade and Development Council and Invest Hong Kong. We will work together. We will create a more comprehensive network to support industries in expanding overseas. We will provide local support. So we will work with our colleagues. Just a comment. I understand there is communication. My question is to start the messaging ahead of time. When we met with the local businesses, they were still talking about the Pearl River Delta. We talk about the Greater Bay Area here, but the people in ASEAN were still talking about the Pearl River Delta, so we have to elevate the matter. Mr. Andrew Fan, I support this proposal. Some Southeast Asian countries imposed tariffs, and they even imposed restrictions on imports. Now we are looking to create this permanent post of the head of the Kuala Lumpur office. So what do we do about the trade barriers? Will there be support measures to offer immediate support for our businesses? So it's about trade barriers. Thank you. Hong Kong has free trade agreements with ASEAN. Under that agreement, the ASEAN has committed to phase out tariffs or reduce the tariffs to a very low level in stages for goods from Hong Kong. And then in finance and telecoms, ASEAN will further open up their market. So any unilateral tariffs or trade restrictions may violate obligations under the agreement. So after the meeting, I will talk to the member about the specifics, and then we can explore a response. On giving support, our ATOs are a vital part of our economic and trade express. We work with the HKTDC and Invest Hong Kong. We set up overseas promotion tours. In partnership with small and medium enterprises, we set up trade expos, conferences. That's to support businesses to connect with overseas buyers. So that's how we identify business opportunities. As we expand trade networks overseas, we also encourage businesses to take advantage of the Bud Fund. And we can get our SME reach out to organize briefings for interested businesses. Local businesses are welcome to visit our 4 SME support centers to make use of the free one-on-one support services. Next, Mr. Albert Tron. I support setting up the ETO in Kuala Lumpur, and I also support the creation of this post. I belong to a business chamber. We visited Penang and other parts of Malaysia over the years. Our trade members invest in Malaysia. Some expressed an interest in investing there. One key strategy for them is that they can tap the Muslim market through Kuala Lumpur. So this ETO in Kuala Lumpur will have a key role to play. Here are my questions. We have 15 ETOs in total. Do we regularly review the resources of our ETOs to make sure the resources are used properly? Are there key performance indicators about bringing in a certain number of businesses or helping a certain number of businesses to go overseas, and maybe organizing a certain number of cultural promotion events every year? Now, my next question has to do with something raised by Mr. Perry Yu. Vietnam is the #1 trading partner in ASEAN with us. The second place is occupied by Singapore. Our office in Singapore will cover Vietnam. Do we have enough workers at the Singapore office to cover both Singapore and Vietnam, both important partners? Hong Kong businesses invest in Vietnam. There are trade ties between Hong Kong and Vietnam. So will we consider setting up an ETO in Vietnam? ETOs are a vital partner of businesses. So let's set up more ETOs in the emerging markets so that Hong Kong businesses can tap those markets. So a review of the ETO's KPIs, manpower, and also coverage of Vietnam. Thank you. On performance targets, the government adopts certain rubrics or metrics to measure the performance of ETOs, and that includes public relations and investment promotion. So there are 3 areas. These 3 areas are set out in controlling officers' reports. Every year, ETOs have to meet these performance targets. We also set out the targets for the year to come every year. At the annual meeting of heads of ETOs, those ETO heads come to LegCo to report on their work with their work reports. Their work reports set out in detail their work in investment promotion and other areas. So we will continue to get in touch with stakeholders for our work. On the other question, whether we will set up more ETOs elsewhere, we will continue to consider our trade ties with different regions and also our national strategies. We also consider the rule of law, the law and order, political stability, and transport of different countries. We will continue to monitor global economic development, and then we look at the actual circumstances, and then we assess the feasibility of setting up ETOs in different places. At the Singapore ETO, the workers there cover the key markets such as Singapore and Vietnam.
Mr. Alvin Lee, Chairman, I support the proposal today on how the ETOs can play a positive role. I am going to ask a question about the function of the ETOs. Malaysia and Hong Kong have been enjoying very good economic and trade ties. The TV culture in Hong Kong is very popular in Malaysia, so the ETO is playing a very important role. In March, I attended the Chinese books exhibition in Malaysia, and there is such a demand for Chinese books. In the organization chart, you can see that under the director, there are 3 branches: a deputy director responsible for PR and administration, deputy 2 is responsible for commerce, and the 3rd line is the attraction of enterprises and investment. Now, how can you consolidate the division of work among these different branches? By the cultural function, in particular in Malaysia, and the Secretary. Thank you very much for the question. Malaysia, in terms of trade, economic and trade and culture, it is an important market. Like other members said, we've been taking delegation to Malaysia for a visit. The digital economy, the consumer market, the middle class, and also the consumption, tourism, but the development, the growth has been pretty impressive. As I said, the ETO will be working alongside the CSTB. We will have more communication. We'll work with the LCSD to promote the relevant policies in terms of art, culture, and innovation, the soft power there. The ETO there will organize and sponsor different arts and cultural and sports events, film events, art exhibition, dragon boat races, and so on, so that Malaysian people will understand more about Hong Kong and raise Hong Kong's profile there. Mr. Dick Chen, good morning, Chairman. On the 24th of February, I attended the Commerce and Industry panel and had some exchanges with the administration. I asked some questions about the KPIs and also the recruitment of staff, whether we will be recruiting local people or Hong Kong people. I must express my support for this proposal to create the directorate post first. In terms of the functions, in 9B, in the KLETO, one of the functions is to liaise closely with government officials, politicians, business and cultural sectors, and local communities. Does it include the legal sector? In the 15 ETOs, a lot of resources have been devoted to this, and there is no office from the DOJ, and I'm wondering whether you will cover the legal sector as well. Will the legal sector be covered? Under Secretary. Chairman, thank you. We'll liaise with the local people, the think tanks, government officials, politicians, business sectors, and so on. Now, for the legal sector, we will be promoting the robust legal system, the environment and the regimes there. We will certainly liaise with various sectors, including the legal sector. Mr. Sunny Tan. Chairman, thank you. I support the proposal regarding the ETO. I am chairman of the Productivity Council. Last week at KL, we worked with Olsen of the ETO there. We took along with us the media to have some exchanges with the stakeholders there. There are so many opportunities. The emerging industries are really setting up plants there. They're using robotic arms. They are resorting to the digital employment. The cost has been reduced by 30%. That there are plenty of business opportunities. So we are all in support of the new establishment for the KL ETO. The newspapers are devoting so much coverage to this subject, and the Deputy Minister the top echelon is really fully in support of this. We have signed FMM and MOU with Malaysia, and that's an association of Malaysia. Now, since there are so many opportunities, I am concerned how the ETO will make sure that the projects will be implemented on the ground, and I'm concerned about the manpower situation. Right, given the increasing volume of business that we have the manpower, and the secretary, I go along with a member that in ASEAN, in Malaysia in particular, the industrial development is really vibrant. There are many Hong Kong businessmen who are very interested in the local market, and they like to make investment there. Other than Hong Kong, the mainland businesses are really interested in expanding overseas. So we have set up the task force on assisting mainland enterprises in going global, and we are providing this one-stop, bespoke, tailor-made platform to assist the businesses in resolving all manner of issues when they're going global, like the market standard, the information gap, and all the rest of it. So through this Economic and Trade Express, we will providing all kinds of services. And the ETO is a significant member of this express, together with other stakeholders and partners, the Invest Hong Kong, the TDC. We will be providing various services. And we'll also liaise with the different networks and members networks to address all the different pain points, so that we can address all these in a targeted manner. I'm going to draw a line under Ms. Elizabeth Kwok. This is simply in terms of time management. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, Chairman. I support the creation of a permanent post for the KL ETO. I'm sure that this is an important ETO because, after all, Malaysia is an important country in the ASEAN countries, and this is an area that we would explore. Other than manpower, other than the creation of posts, in this KL ETO, what is the budget per annum for its operation? We have the task force on going global. We have many different mainland enterprises that are going global via Hong Kong. Chairman, the GPA Economic Alliance will be arranging for some mainland authorities and Hong Kong authorities to take some low-altitude economy enterprises to go to Malaysia and indeed Vietnam, which is also an important market. So my question is, for these countries, for these economies, how much support are you going to be giving to these efforts that the Undersecretary mentioned, targeted approach for innovation and technology, a low-altitude economy. We do need to have a targeted approach to identify the suitable partners, and on the ground, who should we be getting in touch with to achieve what we set out to achieve. All this would need to have some liaison, some study on the ground, and we need to set up the exchanges and the meetings. All these would need budget and manpower. Do you have enough budget and manpower to deal with all this and an avalanche of work that is coming on stream? So we also support the SMEs going there. And it's hard for them to shell out the expenses. They do need to cover all the expenses. How much support will the ETO be giving? So enough manpower to deal with this colossal kind of work. Undersecretary, right, first of all, about the establishment. We have 17 posts, 5 civil servants and 12 recruited locally. They are permanent posts there. By comparison with other ETOs, it is similar. The annual budget is something in the region of 30 million, roughly similar to that of other ETOs. To respond to members' question, through the task force on going global and the Economic and Trade Express, we will be organizing delegations to these places. In fact, the Toronto ETO, the US ETO, have been taking delegations to the local areas to look at the digital development. So we have the matching program. We have meetings and conferences to render assistance to the businesses in a more targeted manner. We will be doing more of the same. All right. I'll be extending the meeting until such time as the meeting or the paper is out of the way. Mr. Chen, Mr. Alan Chen, Chairman. I support the creation of the post for the KLETO. I think this is an arrangement with foresight for 3 reasons. First, for 6 years in a row, the ASEAN represent the largest trading partner for China, taking up 16% of the foreign trade. And ASEAN, for 3 years in a row, represents the largest export market, taking up 17.5% of the total. And this is important contribution to the mainland. And second, for Hong Kong, we can see the importance of Malaysia in terms of 5 benchmarks. Population, 4.47% of ASEAN. GDP, 10.6% of ASEAN. And investment in Hong Kong, Malaysia, FDI in Hong Kong stands up $4.4 billion US dollars, or 7.9% of ASEAN. Fourth, the visitors to Hong Kong, 2024, 1.77 billion, taking up 44.3% of the ASEAN countries. Fifth, trade, $25 billion, or 14.7% of the ASEAN countries. Now, from these 5 indicators, they say a lot about the importance of Malaysia, both to Hong Kong and the mainland. Third, in terms of infrastructural development, the mainland in Malacca, there is a plan of development, and also there is a railway going from Guangxi all the way to Singapore and Malaysia. So in terms of trade and infrastructure, this is going to be very, very significant country. So on these 3 points, I'm fully supportive of this proposal. So going forward, will the CDB be looking at the contribution to China and contribution to Hong Kong. Give a summary of all the contributions that Malaysia is making in this area.
Summarize.
So that's a specific recommendation. So future papers should come with a summary of the particular country's contribution to our countries and Hong Kong's trade. Thank you. When we consider setting up an ETO in a place, we consider the trade tie between Hong Kong and that place. We also consider our national strategies. We take into account all relevant factors. ASEAN is a close trading partner with Hong Kong. I have another figure to share with you. Last year, Invest Hong Kong brought in 560 enterprises. Among them, 50 came from ASEAN, up 43% year on year. So we try to strengthen our tie with ASEAN in every way. Mr. Brave Chan. I thank the officials for joining us. I support creating this place. A short while ago, the DEVB went on a visit to Malaysia and Singapore. There was no ETO in Malaysia, and we were told we had to talk to the ETO in Jakarta. It was another 2 hours on a plane. This position, meaning the position in Kuala Lumpur, matters. That's because of our own 5-year plan. Are there some short-term goals that this office will have to meet? Now, in enclosure 1, I'm looking at the duties and the responsibilities. Organizing visits for officials, etc. When electrical makers visit those places, the ETO should serve as a kind of embassy. They should facilitate such visits. The establishment of ETOs has expanded from 60 in 2023 to 67. It would be better if we could see an overall reduction in the establishment of the bureau, because other bureaus are doing the same. Maybe we can make greater use of technology. So what are some goals on the Belt and Road and 5-year plan so that we can see results in the short term? So the question is about short-term goals. So we have to serve as this platform of attracting overseas enterprises and capital and helping businesses go global. We have the Go Global Task Force. ETOs who work with that task force. We will help local and mainland businesses go global. Our ETO will also bring more investments, businesses, and talent to Hong Kong. On resources, so we will keep our expenditure within our means. So this means internal redeployment, making use of technology, and reorganizing procedures, etc. Our ETOs overseas help us talk to the outside world. It helps us reach out to outside parties. The ETOs will have to support different policy bureaus, so they have to double down on this work. So on manpower and resources, we will stay prudent and we will continue to deliver on the work. Before we vote, I have something to say. Members have expectations of the Kuala Lumpur ETO. And we're also aware of the contribution of Malaysia to our country's trade and Hong Kong's trade. Members' concerns have to do with the performance indicators for the new post. We know work is done, but we would like more specifics. and that will be more in keeping with members' expectations. And this item and the last item, the government takes a measured approach. So every time you create a new post, you have to delete a post elsewhere. Since you're creating this post, you will have to remove a post elsewhere. So I hope this new post to be created will meet the expectations from members who would like to see more concrete performance indicators. The Undersecretary gave us more specific examples, and that's more in line with what members are looking for. So that's my message. I hope this message will be understood. Now I now put the item to a vote. Will members in favor of the proposal in EC paper number 2026-27 number 2 please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think a majority of members voted in favor of this proposal. The proposal is endorsed. We now vote on whether we recommend further discussion of this item in paper EC 2026-27 number 2 by the Finance Committee. And in accordance with paragraph 48 of the Establishment Subcommittee procedure, and now put this motion to a vote that this subcommittee recommends further discussion by the Finance Committee of the proposal in papers EC 2026-27 number 2, which has been endorsed by this subcommittee. A reminder to members: if this motion is passed, that means this subcommittee recommends further discussion of this paper by the FC. If the motion is negative, that means this subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of this paper by the FC. Will members in favor of the motion please raise their hands? Will members against the motion please raise their hands? I think a majority of members voted against this motion, and this motion is negative. This subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of the proposal in EC 2026-27 number 2 by the FC. Thank you. So that concludes the meeting. We will have our next meeting on the 13th of May. That's Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Please attend that meeting. Thank you.